to the channel, everybody. Today we're jumping into the Supra. I'm hoping that we can do first cranks and maybe first start by the end of this video, but there is a lot to update you on and a lot to get done before we can get there. So let's jump into this and show you what we've been dealing with. Over the last few weeks, I have been chipping away at the build. I've been coming in super early in the morning, working on welding and all that type of stuff, as well as staying late at night and just kind of getting things done. In hindsight, I wish I had time to set up a camera or maybe like a GoPro on my chest or my forehead or something to time lapse everything, but it just didn't work out and I really wanted to focus on getting this done. You guys know the history behind this car. I want to have this thing done as soon as possible so we can make some memories of my dad. That aside though, we have a dump pipe now. Those of you that follow me on Instagram know I learned a bunch of tips from you guys and we got my welder set up really, really good, and you can see the big difference between me burning the hell out of this stainless and then how much nicer that looks. Obviously, still a lot more left to learn, but 4-inch dump pipe with the wastegate dump getting merged into the 4-inch dump pipe around here. It was really fun actually trying to weld that in there and working with the gooch and bending my tungsten to get in there and all that type of stuff. It was a lot of fun. Now, intercooler piping. My goal was to go straight down there and loop straight out of here into here. But we got a big problem. When everything's all kind of in here with the radiator and we're not using electronic fans or anything, thermo fans, we have no space here to put an intercooler pipe. There's some space there next to the alternator, but that's really close to the belt. And even if we're dealing with like a little bit of slightly smaller, 2.75 inch, we're like pretty much a hair away from hitting that pulley, and that's just not gonna work, and it just makes things way more complicated than they need to be. In the future, I'll turn this to thermo fans. We'll have a bunch more space there. We won't have this in the way, and we can go straight down and around and make the piping smaller. But for now, we are gonna have to go back through the fender, which I believe is a stock location for this. Maybe not, I'm not sure, but we're gonna work with that. That's where the old intercooler piping was going. Also, speaking of intercooler, brand new Greddy intercooler kit on this thing. Looks incredible. Another thing I need to update you on is I gave some feedback back to the Ichiban engineering guys, and turns out the adapter they made me was actually about 3 centimeters too long compared to how the OEM throttle body was. So they whipped this one up and now it's in the exact same position as the OEM throttle body, which then means the intercooler piping lines up. So that's ready to go. Most of the wiring is done as well. We just got to plug in and connect a few sensors and all that type of stuff, and we can pretty much start cranking this thing and maybe hear it for the first time today. Really excited, but we need to finish making this intercooler pipe before we get to the mess that is the passenger footwell. And by God, I cannot wait to rip all of that out. And that's coming in this video. And just like that, we are now done with fabrication. Like I said, at some point, I definitely want to put thermo fans on this and make the piping shorter and simpler. But for now, it comes up through here, through the fender, down here, just like it was before. And I believe that might be how the stock stuff is set up with like the intercooler stuff there. I don't know how the stock stuff looks, but this is kind of how it's going to look. Please don't mind all the blue couplers on everything, including these. I have black ones on order from Kinokuni, so they'll be arriving soon and we can make this all look good. I don't care about the blue ones in the front because that'll be hidden by the bumper, but everything in the engine bay, I definitely want black because it's gonna make it look so much better. And I think I'm gonna go with the OEM blue cover, but you guys can argue about it in the comment section, try to convince me otherwise. We do have still the carbon and the black one, or maybe we paint one, I don't know. But this is what it's gonna look like. I'm really stoked. I think it's turned out really, really well. We now have to start doing some of the itty-gritty stuff. I'm really excited because we get to rip that entire spaghetti wiring harness out that's under the passenger seat. But before then, I want to just mount a few things like our map sensor and stuff to the intake manifold. I've kind of, cut everything off this that we just don't need. And a lot of these are going to get plumbed up and stuff, but this cable here, this little plug, no, not this plug. There's another plug there hiding somewhere, but there's a 3-wire plug that goes to the OEM map sensor. We're putting a Link one on here for up to, I think, 7 bar or something ridiculous. So we need to make sure we have that. I still have to hook up these 2 ground wires to somewhere on the chassis. There's a good mounting point here, so I'll probably do that. Otherwise though, everything's come together pretty quickly, and we can probably think about starting this thing later on tonight, if we're really lucky. And then from there, and it's just, you know, the last 10% stuff of tidying stuff up. Oh, also, right now we don't really have anything to connect the dump pipe to, and I'll show you in a little bit, but we also have a brand new exhaust for this, a brand new suspension, and all that other stuff that'll happen in the next video that'll then link everything up. But if we can hear this thing roar to life and just dump pipe, 4-inch dump pipe straight to the ground, I'll be very excited. Something I did that I forgot to film is we did a full PRP coil pack upgrade in this. We're running the 35 GTR coils all under this OEM cover, which is awesome because we didn't even have to change the OEM harness. We're batch firing them. We've got one of these little things that they sell that just goes in here and deletes the igniter, so we can tidy and get this off the strut tower as well. Ideally, it's best to do direct ignition, but I would have to then run a couple extra wires to the ECU to make that work. And my goal here is to use the OEM harness and not have to do that. So that's why I opted to just go with the batch setup. And because PRP sells a kit that it just works with, then there was just nothing else to bother thinking about. Also, there's RB dress up bolts on this. I don't know how many other people know this, but the PRP RB dress up bolts are perfect for the valve cover on the JZ, as well as the JZ dress up bolt kit from PRP too, which just ties it all in and makes the cover look freaking sick. I think I'm also going to get PRP radiator hoses and maybe get rid of this because it'd be kind of cool to just have a black hose here, a nice shiny silicone one than this. But I don't know, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Anyways, let's get to work.
A few moments later.
Seems like I got a little ahead of myself, and I don't have any fuel lines going to my fuel rail yet. So I'm making all of that right now and just piping everything out. Obviously we're running DishWorks everything on the car. I've already mounted the regulator, the fuel rails on there, everything looks great, everything fits great, and all the fittings are crazy high quality, as well as their hose. There's nothing worse than going to do a fuel system and then finding out later that all your lines and hoses and stuff are all like super cheap and they fray and they're impossible to get into the fittings, and then you get frustrated and you start stabbing your fingers with all the little spiky little braid things. It's not fun. And I just... Where did you go? Anyways, as I was saying, go get yourself some DishWorks stuff. We're also going to be putting in a fuel pump and all that type of stuff, but for the first start, we'll do that later. I'm about to jump into the wiring, but I need a bit of sugar, give myself a little bit of a rush. This is like my go-to right now. The only way to explain this is like a grape marshmallow. It's like sour. It's really, really good. If you're visiting Japan or live here, give this a go. It's at all the usual convenience stores. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Whew. Every time I look at this, I cringe. But you know what? In its day, this was top of the line, believe it or not. This did a great job, and this did everything that it needed to and allowed people in Japan to do some crazy tuning stuff. But thank God for new tuning technology and Link, because this is all getting replaced with one little thing. And I'll show you in a little bit, but let's start ripping this out. Dang. Genuine factory manual 2JZ VVTi A80 or Mark 4 Supra ECU. If anyone needs this, shoot us an email, info@sammit.net. I'll sell it. I have no use for this, so I'm sure this will help someone else out there with an OEM one, but anyways, that's coming out. because this was all one big piggyback system, right? And then this, oh my gosh. It's like a piggyback harness. This went into the OEM loom, and then this went into the OEM ECU, and then here's this, which is obviously the F-con itself, which controlled everything. And then this other wiring harness here is like just butt connected in, and this goes to an IAT sensor that was in the engine bay and a map sensor. So I guess it just kind of worked as like a piggyback system and just kind of worked alongside with the OEM ECU. But that's that. I don't know if anyone wants that F-con, but I'm happy to let someone take it off my hands. I don't even know what to sell it for. Just send us an email and tell us what you want to pay for it, I guess. Now, all this other stuff in here seems to be mainly gauges and maybe stereo and things like that. Everything else here I think is just tied in for, yeah, these gauges and stuff and lights. So this stuff is definitely Defi gauge stuff. We'll be pulling that out too. We're gonna go to a CAN bus, single gauge. But I think that's kind of it. So what I'll do for now, all right, let's show you this, right? This is where the magic happens. All of this is now this and one Link ECU. We don't need two boxes, two ECUs working with each other. This does everything and does it better than what the old stuff used to do. So how this should work is a patch harness. This should literally just plug into the OEM loom here. Now figure it out, it's my first time. I think that goes there, yep. Then I think it's this one. Then I think, what's next? That one goes there. That one goes there. And then this one goes there. Look at that. Easy as pie. Then these two plugs go into my fancy new Link Fury. I'm gonna have to spend a bit of time just pretty much telling the Link where everything is, sensor-wise and stuff. Oof. I love Link, man. Such good ECUs, such good bang for their buck. This just literally goes boom, like this, and boom, like that. Now I can put a battery on this and pretty much power it up. From here though, I definitely want to plug in our pedal because we need to configure the drive-by-wire and make sure that's working so that we can actually, you know, crank this thing for the first time. Everything else here is like, that's CAN bus for gauges and a keypad. And there's a few other auxiliaries and stuff here we can tap into, as well as this is our O2 bung. Oh my God, Daiki. I never welded in the O2 bung in the downpipe. Luckily, we can put that further down, so that's not a problem. We'll worry about that later. For now, let's get the pedal hooked up and we'll just kind of sit it here on the couch for now, on the seat, and it should be good. What is this thing? Oh, that's some scat kind of cable thing for like maybe some old entertainment system. I don't know, we'll look at it later. But that's it, it's plugged in. We still have a lot of these wires to pull out, and we will. But that's for future Sam to deal with tomorrow. Well, actually next week. From here, the next step was I had to use the Link software and start to tell it where everything was. Mark from Panic made me a really good patch harness and gave me a list of where all the inputs and outputs were going so that I could then follow that list and set up the Link software. So while I started going through it all, halfway through, I realized that if I wanted this car to start tonight, I needed help. So I called Mark, and sure enough, he was awake and he was able to remote in and start just going through it crazy fast. He actually had a pre-saved cal that he loaded that helped us get a lot of the initial setup done. And by no means is this a perfect map. It was just a first, let's get this thing started. Let's make sure it works. Let's get kind of a conclusion for the video and that type of stuff. But we were able to get it done in like 20 to 30 minutes, which is awesome. Usually you need a couple hours to just kind of go through and triple check things. And we still will go and do that once I get back from this little business trip that I'm on. By the way, the clip of me explaining all of this and pointing never actually recorded. I guess I never pushed the record button or something. Anyways, that aside, what you're about to see is the car starting for the first time. And boy, does it sound good. This thing sounds good. So we're currently on the phone with Mark from Panic and he's helping us out. Absolute champ. And you just heard the car run for the first time. I'm way too excited. That 4-inch dump is loud, but. I've never ever revved a car though by hand before like this. I'm just like holding the drive-by-wire pedal in my hand.
Oh, that's fun. Hey, so one thing I noticed is the map sensor's not reading.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't see it reading. Let me double check the log on that though.
Give it any gas and it dies. Yo, that's perfect, dude. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. There was a moment today where I didn't think I was gonna have this running for this video, but thank God for Mark at Panic. Mark absolutely loves what he does. He is always up to crazy hours of the morning, literally making engine harnesses, setting up, you know, first start maps and all that type of stuff on Link ECUs. He is the man. And fortunately, it was 3 o'clock. He was awake. And he was like, yeah, let's get this done. So in about 20, 30 minutes, we had this thing ready and set up for first start. There's still a bunch of work that needs to obviously get done, but it started, it ran for the first time. It sounded choppy as all hell. I'm really excited. There's so much work that has just gone into this, and I know there's so much we weren't able to film of all the welding, the fabrication, but I've really stepped up, I guess, as a car builder, being able to do all this stuff myself. As I've always said, in Japan, it is so hard to find good fabricators that are available, not busy, and also don't want to charge an arm and a leg. So being able to just take everything on and be able to do it myself and then teach those skills to Daiki and stuff like that, because that's the goal, is eventually Daiki will be able to do all this stuff too. But yeah, anyways, I'm stoked. We got the car running, huge move. It sounds incredible. Now I got to jump on a bullet train. It's like 9 o'clock at night. So much stuff going on right now, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.